Welcome to the Fireside Storyteller, where ancient tales come alive through the magic of spoken word. I'm Aaron, and tonight we'll begin an extraordinary journey into the mysterious world of Sasquatch stories. Before we dive into our first tale, I want to share something with you that's both fascinating and profound. These Sasquatch stories that we'll be exploring aren't just mysterious encounters or campfire tales. They're part of humanity's deepest connection with the wilderness. From the misty peaks of the Pacific Northwest to the snow-capped Himalayas, nearly every culture has stories of these elusive beings who seem to guard the boundary between the civilized world and the wild unknown. Tonight's story comes from the Coastal Salish people who have lived among the towering cedars and mist-shrouded mountains of the Pacific Northwest for countless generations. They tell of a being they call Skookum, a name that has become synonymous with something powerful and extraordinary. But as you'll see, this isn't just a story about a mysterious creature. It's about wisdom, respect, and the delicate balance between our world and the wild places that surround us. So gather together close around our virtual fire, and let me tell you about Skookum, the guardian of the mountains. Long ago, in a time when ancient cedars whispered secrets to those who knew how to listen, there lived a young hunter named Tanaka. Now, Tanaka wasn't just good at hunting, he was exceptional. His arrows flew true, his steps were silent, and his instincts were razor sharp. But there was one thing that Tanaka lacked: humility. While other hunters would offer prayers of thanksgiving for each deer that they took, Tanaka would swagger through the village boasting about his latest kills. The elders would shake their heads and they would warn him, "The forest gives freely to those who respect it, but it has ways of teaching those who don't." I imagine Tanaka probably rolled his eyes at such warnings. You know how maybe young people can be sometimes when they think they know everything. Well, one crisp autumn morning, when the leaves were painted in gold and crimson, Tanaka ventured deeper into the woods than anyone from his village had ever gone before. The hunting had grown sparse in the usual grounds, and though he never stopped to wonder why, and his pride drove him to seek bigger game in the high country. As he climbed higher, something changed in the forest. The familiar songs of birds fell silent, not gradually, but all at once, as if nature itself was holding its breath. The trees seemed to grow older and more gnarled with each step, their branches reaching out like warning hands. Even the moss hanging from the limbs appeared different, forming patterns that looked almost like writing to those who knew the old ways. But nearly midday, Tanaka spotted something that made his heart leap. An elk larger than any he'd ever seen. Its antlers spread wide as a canoe's length, its coat shimmering like the mountain mist. Without a moment's hesitation, without the traditional prayer, without even considering his family needed so much meat, he drew his bow. That's when it happened. A sound unlike anything in human experience rolled through the forest. Not quite human, not quite animal, but something that made the very air vibrate. The massive elk simply vanished, as if nothing more than morning mist burning away in the sun. Tanaka spun around, and there between two towering cedars stood something that challenged everything he thought he knew about the world. It was tall as three men, covered in thick hair, the color of cedar bark. But it was the eyes that struck him deepest, ancient, knowing eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of centuries. This was Skookum, the guardian spirit of the mountains. What happened next was something Tanaka would never forget. The being didn't speak, not in words, but somehow its message filled Tanaka's mind with crystal clarity. You come to take, but never to give. You hunt without honor, without need, without respect. Suddenly, Tanaka's mind was flooded with visions. Every deer he had killed and left to waste, every arrogant boast at the village gatherings, every warning he'd ignored. But he saw something else too, something remarkable. He saw the forest as a living tapestry, each plant and animal connected by threads of life. He watched his own actions, tore holes in that delicate web, sending ripples of discord through the entire forest. Tanaka fell to his knees, his prized bow slipping from trembling fingers. When he finally found his voice, what emerged wasn't the plea for mercy he expected. Instead, from some deep place in his memory came the thanksgiving prayer he had learned as a child, but had long forgotten to use. The forest seemed to exhale. When Tanaka looked up, Skookum was gone. Not with any dramatic flourish, but simply gone, as if it had been melted back into the forest itself. On his way down the mountain, something remarkable happened. Tanaka spotted a single deer, not that grand elk, but a yearling buck, just enough to feed his family. This time, he said the proper prayers. This time, he took only what he needed. This time, he gave thanks with a full heart. From that day forward, Tanaka became known not just as a skilled hunter, but as a wise one. He taught young hunters to respect the forest gifts, to take only what was needed, and to always remember that something ancient and powerful watched from the deep woods. Skookum still watches, he would tell wide-eyed children gathering around the evening fires. Not to frighten us, but to remind us that we are part of something larger than ourselves. The forest provides those who respect it, and Skookum ensures we never forget this truth. Years passed into decades, and decades into generations. The world has changed, but the forest remained, and with them, the stories of Skookum. Even today, people report encounters with a giant, hair-covered figure in the Pacific Northwest. Some react with fear, others with fascination. But those who know the old stories understand. Skookum isn't a monster to be feared or a prize to be captured. It's a reminder of our place in the natural world, a guardian ensuring that we don't forget the wisdom of those who came before us. Now that's our story for tonight, but it's just the beginning of our journey into Sasquatch lore. We'll explore more tales from the Indigenous traditions. We'll investigate famous encounters and even look at how different cultures around the world tell similar stories about the forest.